on being a champion. You are listening to The Competitor's Brain. This is Lauren Fox, and this is episode number 72. So sometimes what happens when I consume all these different podcasts on a day-to-day basis is it feels like certain topics keep coming up. And what happens then is I go back into my memory banks, and there are some quotes that I've picked out, in some cases cut out, put on a mirror, or put in a folder, and have gone back and have kind of put some of the things that people are saying now juxtaposed with things that people have said in the past. So in this case, it was started with a quote from Dr. Rob Gilbert, from his wrestling coach in college. And the quote from his coach, Homer Barr, at UMass Amherst was, "If you really want to be a champion, then the work is no problem." You put that alongside a quote from Jerry Rice, where he says, "Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can do what others can't." Of course, Jerry Rice, the best wide receiver in the history of the NFL. And then the third quote alongside of it kind of ties both of them together. And it comes from a gentleman that we've been talking about a lot over the last week and a half or so, Anson Dorrance, the former head coach of the UNC women's soccer team. And his quote is, "The vision of a champion is someone who is bent over, drenched in sweat, at the point of exhaustion when nobody is looking." Well, where did that quote come from? And it came from Dorrance one day was driving the campus during Mia Hamm's senior year. Mind you, at that point in time, she's one of the most decorated women's soccer players in the country. And it was a cold, late winter morning. He stopped and he saw Mia Hamm going through their grueling fitness exercise alone in a park. She was running, doing a cone drill. If you've played soccer, you know what those are. She had to sprint 5 yards and back, 10 yards, 15, 20, 25. And Dorrance, even though I'm sure he was far away, the apocryphal part of the story is that he could see her bent over with sweat flying off of her. And when he got to work that day, he wrote a note to her, and it said, "The vision of a champion is someone who is bent over, drenched in sweat, at the point of exhaustion when nobody else is watching." Dorrance also said, and it dovetails right into it, "The final measure of athletic greatness is not what you do in the training sessions with your peers and teammates. It's what you do on your own." And I'll repeat that last part. It's what you do on your own. Going back to Rob Gilbert, the guy that we kicked this whole thing off with, giving the quote from his coach in college, Homer Barr, I think back to Dr. Gilbert and the best student he's ever had, Melissa Sapio. And she graduated from Montclair State with a perfect 4.0. Well, she was able to accomplish that by doing what Dr. Gilbert refers to as MTE, more than expected, where if they ask you to do problems 1, 3, 4, and 6, you do problems 1 through 6 with the idea that you might be able to get a better grasp on the topic. And it's not just in sports, and it's not just in school, it's in sales. If we ask you to do 40 sales calls in a day and you're doing 40, you're probably going to get the results that everybody else wind up getting. And so that's the challenge for a player, that if you really want to be the best and you really want to get everything in or everything out of your athletic ability that you think you can possibly do, the trick is to do more than expected. Said this to high school baseball players, and I've said it to Little League players. I only have you for maybe 2 hours a day in high school. In Little League, I might have you for an hour and a half or an hour twice a week. So the work then for a kid to get better falls on them and going in the backyard and playing. It falls on mom and dad for being available to the kid so that the kid can go and play. And it falls to siblings as well. But the desire to do that work ultimately, and the desire to become better, is what makes you good. And to get back to Homer Barr's quote, it's not what makes you good, it's what makes you great. Going back to Homer Barr's quote, if you really want to be a champion, then the work is no problem. Then doing more than expected and doing things outside of practice is no problem.